Hell yeah.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing out there? This is Adam Post, the Adam Post Speaks channel, and I am really fortunate tonight to be with my friend Von KLAUS, the great creator of Monster MD.
Hey, Mr. Postman, that should be your intro. Just think about it.
You know what?
Thank you for having me.
That's pretty damn good. We're going to write that down and think about it. And I asked Von to help me talk to the legendary Art Thibert. We're really fortunate to have tonight. How are you, Art?
Good. You guys are ganging up on me.
Yep.
That's what we do.
2-on-1. Those are the odds I like.
2-on-1. The more backers, the better. That's how we do it in Comicsgate. And, you know, it's great to have you with us. And before we came on, we were just, oh, you know what? Excuse me, as the great Steve Martin probably still says. Let's just regard and say hello to our chat that jumped in with us. Hi to VileNet, who's so fantastic and always retweeting important stuff and supporting what we're all about. Nella Possessed, I see you all over the place, but always in the chat when we have a live. It's really appreciated. And
nice.
Nella is just too cool. James Hayes is fantastic. James Hayes is always out there supporting people, especially great in the chat with being a great mod and just posting links to books and things like that. Really terrific. Black Samurai, love your name, 76. Hail to you. And
hail.
Yeah, just great to see you guys. Great for you to take the time out. And Reed was asking if we start on time or if we start on war campaign time. We are not cool enough to start on war campaign time. We got to be old, legit people and start at the right time.
What's the difference between our time and war campaign time?
Well, war campaign will announce that they're going to do a stream, and then they'll have a scheduled stream. But really, the idea is like like a party time. It's like, well, you don't want to go there too early because it's not cool, but a lot of us do anyway. So when they're going to do a stream at like 7 o'clock, let's say. They usually start at like 8 or 8:30 when they actually start their show, which is a really late, fashionably late. Yeah, they're fashionably late. They make sure they have a crowd, and it's a really fun show. There's a lot of laughs on that show. Very absurd.
Get in late, get out early.
Yeah, get in late.
Play in a rock band, so we never would go on time. You know, because you want to leave them all like edgy and they're waiting. So as soon as you come out, they're all they go nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. Long. Yeah.
But it just wouldn't fit Chrono Mechanics if we were not on time tonight.
Yeah,
that's all I gotta say.
That's true.
I like to stay clocked to the time as much as possible, so people kind of know what's up. Art, you're in a band, huh?
Human being, Adam, and I like that about you.
Too responsible. We'll get a little nuts and say and do some irresponsible things tonight for sure.
Good.
Art used to be in a band. Just real quick, I never knew that aspect of you. What did you do?
I was a drummer. So at the age of 15, I bought my first kit. And I never looked back. I still play every day in the studio. I actually have a 7-piece double kick. It's got like 29-inch bass drums. So those are Tommy Lee size cannons right there. My neighbors hate me. They hate me. It is loud.
Playing those Tommy Lee sizes all day. What is it with Tommy Lee and size? That's all I ever hear about the guy. But but seriously, folks, I was a 15-year-old drummer too. Art. That's where I started. Yeah. I ended up selling my drums and moving on from it, but I loved it when I did it. It was awesome.
Oh, you'll love this then. I had a vintage, well, it's vintage now. They called them like Vistalite sets. It was a Ludwig kit and it was orange. So it was just like John Bonham from Zeppelin in the day. So that transparent orange kit, I own one just like it.
It's amazing. Art, you've been in comics a long time, really. I mean, not to talk about any of our ages here exactly, but you've been. When did you first get into comics? And your pencil inks? What is your skill set? What's your thing?
I believe I broke in 92, 93. So I was working as Jim Valentino's assistant. But before that, I was working as an illustrator in LA. So I did illustrations, book covers, things like that. So I think it was around 92, 93 that I officially started working with Jim Valentino, and I broke in at DC and Marvel in 94. So yeah, I'm really old.
Jim Valentino was before the Image days.
Oh yeah, this is probably 15 years, well, maybe 10, 12 years before. Yeah.
Oh, so like the early 80s.
Yeah, 84, 94.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. It was about 10 years actually. Yeah.
Wow.
And then 94, everything blew up, didn't it? And that where Image showed up and
Oh
people
yeah,
started
I put out black and white.
up.
Yeah,
You put out black and white. Oh man, and I was buying all of your. You were inking X-Men X Factor,
yes,
with Will Spertatio, and I loved those. I have all those. Man, that art really influenced me. I loved it. Good
well,
stuff.
you helped pay for my house, so thank you.
Were you? That's what we're here to do. Well, you deserve it.
Yeah.
You know, you do great work, and you know, we love having you. We love having your work around. And obviously, if people don't support our books and support our projects, we can't keep doing them. So it is important. So you did black and white. Was that after you started working with Will Spertatio?
Oh yeah, yeah. So Image came after the big Marvel boom. So probably around 92, 93. All the Marvel books that we were working on, all the X books with Jim Lee and Will Spertatio and Scott Williams and myself really started like just they call it the speculators, but the speculators came in and those books were selling millions of copies every month. So we were getting tens of thousands of dollars in royalty checks every month. So it was pretty insane. Yeah.
So when all those big names did their exodus and you were just standing there, were you with these guys, or were you like, did you still work with Marvel from there on?
Oh, dude, I jumped ship too.
Yeah, you were with them, huh? That's cool, man. What was that like? It's like you got a little rebellious streak in you. I like it.
Yeah, well, there was a coup before we all left because this is Jim Lee is so awesome, man.
Yeah.
This guy, I forget his name, but he sponsored like an X-Men tour. So he got a bunch of X-Men people to do conventions and personal signings. So we were all kind of paid like a fee to do these shows. So as we would go to these different towns, Jim Lee would invite like Larry Stroman, you know, like if we were in his town or whoever it was, we would invite them over and they would do these conventions with us. But afterwards, we'd start hanging out, have dinner, start talking. You know what I mean? One
drinks
to another. Yeah.
You wake up in bed next to Jim Lee, and he's like, "You want to make comics that aren't Marvel?" And you're like, "Yeah, buy me breakfast too." That's awesome.
I was there from the very get-go, so all the plans I was always privy to. But that's
awesome.
There was definitely a recruit. You know, like we would go to these different towns and recruit new talent.
Oh wow! For Image.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you recall anybody that you recruited? Was Larry Stroman one of the guys?
Well, we talked to Larry. We talked to a little talent, not very known, Mark Silvestri.
Sure.
We talked to him a little bit.
I love him.
He took a little bit of convincing, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that.
So Art, you are part of the counterculture. You really are.
Oh yeah, I belong right here with you guys. Hell yeah.
Yeah, OG awesome. Rebel. I like it.
Did you ever? So were you when they first broke away? It was Rob Liefeld, Tom McFarlane, I guess Jim Lee.
Valentino.
So
yeah,
were you tight with Jim Valentino?
Silvestri, Eric Larson. Yeah.
Were you working with Jim Valentino when he made that move?
I worked with Jim early on in my career, so it was probably 10 years prior. But I knew all those guys. Like I was practically I was like one community over from Rob Liefeld. So I remember hanging out with Rob, even with Art Adams at comic conventions before any of us were working professionally.
Oh, how cool. Very
cool. So I knew Rob and I knew Art Adams before they even started working professionally.
And then you worked on Image for a few years, or were you doing like Image and Marvel?
I at first I was kind of hedging my bets with both. So I did Cable, where I penciled and inked that with the writer Fabian Nicieza. Yeah. And before that, I did 2 issues of X-Men that I penciled and inked with Fabian as well. So I did those as I was making the move over to Image. But I was working out of Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios when I was working on Cable, actually.
Wow. And that was did Marvel hassle you for working for both companies, or they didn't really bother you about that?
I don't think they really fully knew what was happening.
Okay.
Because I think, in about like 6 months, a year later, when Forbes magazine writes up, these young upstarts, it starts, becoming a blip on their radar. And I think their stock went down too at the end of that year, Marvel stock. So
yeah, when there was the announcement about the big exodus from Marvel to Image, it definitely did hit their stock. It's really interesting. So you worked in Extreme Studios at Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios, right?
yeah, he's just right up the freeway from me, so it was very convenient.
Nice. How big was that studio?
Oh my gosh.
It was
between Extreme and Image, the Image offices, we had the entire 15th floor of the Disney casting building. My office, dude, I had my own office. It was so cool. I could see Anaheim Stadium, Angel Stadium from my office. So I could see the baseball games being played. Yeah.
That was interesting. Wow.
Nice distraction while you're drawing.
Yeah, Rob had some kind of deal with the Big A, so we could go over there on our lunch breaks. Like we would just walk over there, grab a hot dog and a beer, and we'd watch, a couple innings, and then we'd go back to the office and work the rest of the evening. Yeah.
How cool. And so there was like a art table set up and all that?
Oh yeah, I had my own office, so I wasn't with the riffraff. We had a bullpen, and that's where a lot of the newbies and the color department, I think it was just the newbies in the color department worked in the bullpen.
Oh, interesting. So, but you really missed something, like not being able to be around other creative people, like doing the art and really working with other guys. Like it was an awesome dynamic, wasn't it?
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, the talent that was coming through there. And part of my job was to train the new inkers that came in, but also I was it was in my job description to recruit and to find new people. So I was still doing a lot of conventions. And I remember in Colorado, there was this young skinny dude came up. He's like, I really want to work at Extreme Studios. Here's my portfolio. And it was J. Scott Campbell. So
wow.
I brought that portfolio back to Rob, and Rob's like, I think he's one of Jim's guys. And I go, no, he's not one of Jim's guys. He's looking for work. He gave me this portfolio. He's like, whatever.
So he didn't hire J. Scott Campbell?
He didn't hire J. Scott Campbell. And I was pretty good friends with Greg Capullo at the time too. And I said, Greg wants to, make the move from Marvel over here. Do we have a book for him? He's like, nah. I forget what Rob's reasoning was, but then the next thing you know, he's working on Spawn and just changing the entire, landscape of the industry.
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember that.
He's a super talent.
And the Creech, I liked the Creech.
I got a special thanks for that book. I helped him with some of the writing at the end.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We used to correspond. He'd give me pencil lessons. I'd give him ink lessons. And then he was working on Creech about the time I was about midway through Black and White. So, we talk story ideas, and I would ink some like over his work. And we had fax machines at the time. I would fax him out stuff, and then I'd send him if I was having some anatomy problems, and he'd correct some stuff on Black and White. Yeah, it was good times.
Very cool. Now, when did you first start publishing Chrono Mechanics? Because you've put out some issues before.
Yes. Oh, my daughter was 7. So it was probably 10 years ago. Or so,
so it definitely
it was longer than that. It was 15 years ago. Yeah, it was like 12 or 15 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
And now it's back. Now it's back. What it keeps bringing this one back? Is it because it's time to do it all and do it right with this campaign, or?
Yeah, well, you guys know, like there's ideas and there's things that just never go away. Like there's story ideas, there's drawings, there's things that you just are compelled to do. And, I was working Marvel DC, and even like with Black and White, I would call it like I do my day job working for those guys. And then I'd come in, home after dinner, put the lap board on my my lap, watch TV, hang out with the family, and kind of work on these independent projects. But what was happening is it's just taking too darn long. So I've worked on and off these projects for the last Black and White 25 years, and Chrono 12, 15 years. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so you're haunted proper. That's awesome. That's when you know you got to do it. You have to do this. What made you get into the idea of a time travel, time fixer-upper adventure comedy?
Well, I always like dual identity stuff, so that's why I like superheroes. Bruce Wayne, Batman, Clark Kent, Superman, that type of thing. And I just like the idea of somebody starting very humble and then becoming super fantastic. So, and my dad was a working Joe, so he worked at the Long Beach Naval Shipyard. So when he'd come home, he'd be kind of beat up, he'd be exhausted, he'd have cuts and scrapes and things like that. So I always thought like it just, the visual always stuck with me. So I was thinking, what if you did something with like the super fantastic meets the mundane? Like these guys actually save the cosmos. They save time. But it's just their pain in the ass job. You know what I mean? Like they get no accolades, they get no thanks, they get no nothing, we never even
I know what that's like.
Yeah, they're doing it. So go ahead.
I tried out the blue collar life. And I worked in an industrial pipe factory for a while. I was like, maybe this is for me. No, I'm just a wussy artist when it comes down to it. But I'm glad I did, man. I did it for like a year or two, and it's I think that's such a cool idea you came up with. Like bringing the blue collar to the fantastic is such a winning combo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and just to back up for a minute, I'm telling you right now, Von Klaus, that Monster MD is crazy inspiration for me. I look at that book and I think, how did you put this together? I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's so simplistic. Like the concept is so thought out.
It's iconic. It's iconic.
Yeah, you can just kind of understand it. You can, and the artwork and the colors, just fantastic.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot to me coming from someone who inspired me as a kid to get into this. So, wow. That means a lot. I have a lot of questions for you about this though, because this is so cool. And with Chrono Mechanics, they're fixing time, and time itself is this amazingly large, intricate machine, right? And what causes the machine to break down in your story? Are there people who like time travel and cause wrinkles or like ripples in time or tears that mess it up, and then it hurts the machine? I mean, how does it all work?
It's all the above, but in the most basic sense, like the mission statement for Chrono Incorporated is there's a company and they're entrusted in maintaining and repairing the big machine. So when I say big machine, I mean literally a machine it's a cosmic clockwork machine that's built in the very fabric of the cosmos and the galaxy itself. So this thing is incomprehensible as far as size and scope. I think sometimes when I spend time trying to think about how big it is, I can't even comprehend it. You know what I mean? But as a writer, as a creative person, it also is, there's just so many places you can go with it. So the best way to explain it is clockwork machinery, nuts and bolts, gears, it's like a combustion engine. You know what I mean? So it needs to be maintained. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be upgraded. So there's all kinds of stuff like that that happens at its basic core. But like what you were saying, Vaughn, there's all these offshoots. So one of the main offshoots, if the machine goes without being fixed or doesn't get fixed or repaired on time, timelines can go kaflooey. They can kind of run apart. They can cross over, they can merge. All kinds of anomalies can form. Timelines can disappear. New ones can reappear. It just becomes a mess. So one of the fun things we have built in the story, if things get too interjumbled and out of control with the big machine, Chrono Inc. has a button. It's basically a reset button, and we call it the Go Primal Protocol. So what it does is like they can reboot time. So they hit the button and it reboots time back to the primordial ooze, and time just starts all over again.
Wow.
And the Chrono Mechanics are just like, oh God, like they're going to get a stern talking to.
Yeah, they're the only ones that understand what's going on, because they'd probably be the only ones that wouldn't have to climb out of the primordial ooze.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said before, they have their mundane, real personalities and lives. And then as Chrono Mechanics, they become these super blue collar badasses in a way, but each one of them looks like they're from a different time and a different, or maybe even a different universe in the case of this alien guy right here, who's really cool. So I'm just curious, like, when you came to picking who was going to be part of this team, you picked Caravaggio, the Italian Renaissance painter, I believe, who did a lot of dramatic stuff with light. He was like known for sweet dramatic light paintings. And then you picked a caveman, Groot, and you picked Alien Boy, and then you picked like a 70s rocker. Was that because you knew they would be kind of like the four muses, like the Ninja Turtles are, where you got like your hothead, your party guy, your brainiac, and your leader? Or was there something else going on with it made you put this team together?
There was that going on, and there was also just when Jack Kirby came up with the visual for the Fantastic Four. As a comic book fan, that is the best silhouette to exist in comic books. You know each one of those characters just by looking at their silhouettes. They're so identifiable. So when I created a group of characters, I wanted them so not just diversified as far as personalities and things, but also visual.
Visual design. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. So
awesome.
there's a kind of a comprehension about like, all right, that's this guy is the thing, because he looks like the way he does. And
then the flip side, the flip side of it is that when they power up as Chrono Mechanics, they all look almost identical. You know what I mean? So they almost lose their identity when they become, mechanics, working Joes. You know, you're working for the machine, you're working for the big corporation. You're just a faceless cog, as they say in the machine.
You're a uniform, right? You put on the uniform.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea that they also lose their I guess their personality, I guess who they are, sort of. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like when you go to work and you don't feel like yourself for 8 hours at that office, you certainly can't say what you really think most of the time. And then you come home, and then the sweatpants go on, and you can get online and say whatever the hell you want.
And then you turn on YouTube, and then you spout out.
Yeah, exactly. Just. But that's awesome. I love that you have this dynamic of like the hippie rocker 70s guy mixed with like the caveman. You got the funky kind of alien guy that looks kind of like nervous all the time, and then Caravaggio looks kind of arrogant and flamboyant. I mean, it's hysterical, man. It's a great combo.
Yeah, so we have Oot, where when we were pitching this in Hollywood, we actually he's the prehistoric Donald Trump. So in his timeline, how he makes ends meet for his family, he's got a huge family and a very demanding wife. So he sells real estate. So he sells cave condos. And so he claims that he invented fire, but that's debatable. So what he does is, as a selling point for amenities, the cave condos come with fire pits, so you can imagine how successful he is in his timeline. So he gets a lot of beads and trinkets and a bunch of fresh game that he can bring, to his wife and family. And so he does pretty well. He's a good provider. And so Zin, the intergalactic kid deity or child deity, as we call him, he's kind of he's the spiritual character. So he's the center and the calm in the team. So what he does is he has this thing that it's a self mantra. It's the me, myself, and I. It sounds very ego, but what it is it's self-reliance. It's the me, myself, and I. So if you notice, he's got that little floating triangle shape above him that represents the Trinity gem, as we call it. And so then Caravaggio is the frustrated Renaissance artist, because when I was studying art and things, fine art, they said that Caravaggio was always frustrated and he never felt like he got his due in his lifetime. So he's kind of the frustrated artist that has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Nice.
And also he thinks this is a little bit of a departure from the actual Caravaggio. He's also an inventor. So he claims that he's got a rival, which most artists have a rival. So his rival is Leonardo da Vinci. So he claims that Leonardo da Vinci is stealing all his painting techniques and inventions. So we'll find out in future storylines if it's just paranoia or if it's fact.
That's awesome.
This is maybe the highest high concept thing I've ever heard of. I mean, this really just takes your imagination and just it runs away with it wildly.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
There's so much going on. It's really amazing, and you've obviously spent. Yeah, I mean, it's more than a world. It's like where just to get grounded a little bit. Is Earth involved in this whatsoever, or are these just?
Yeah, Earth is one of the many, universes or planets that's involved in, in time. So the machine not only governs, our planet, but all timelines that are connected to our planet as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
You said you
Well,
developed
out of
there's
his
so many
mind.
layers.
yeah, it's a mind blower. It's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy times 10.
I'm just thinking of all the different
I
possibilities now.
compare it to Hitchhiker's Guide as well. Yeah.
Yes. When you said something about developing your own style of art for just this project, how did that come about? And what artists inspired you to craft this awesome style?
So I always like Alex Toth, and I like some of the early Hanna-Barbera design team that they put on these different, like I think like Yogi Bear and even like Scooby-Doo, those characters are like so well designed. It's debatable whether the animation is good or not, but the design work is really good. And I've always liked the French artists like Mobius and those guys, and they have a very distinct rendering style. So I love style. So I just kind of combined Hanna-Barbera, the best of Hanna-Barbera, with like Mobius. And
that's so
and
cool.
so I like to think like the design work isn't like Disney, so it's not I guess some people think it's cute, but I think it's kind of ugly. So I was kind of going with high design versus like anything that looked really too aesthetically pleasing, so they're all weird designs and weird kind of structures.
That's cool. Yeah, they're exaggerated in ways that give them kind of a comedy edge, but there's a griminess to it that keeps that blue collar kind of down to earth feel for the characters, which is great because your concept is so big and so fantastic that you don't want to lose the grounded, humanity of these characters and
the fantastic background to it. This is a great page for that. Just like, what the heck? I mean, this is it looks like you took Mobius and but it really does look grounded but fantastical and dynamic and interesting. And Narwhal is doing the colors for you on this, right?
Oh yeah, he's hitting a home run each and every time. It's amazing. And once again, like the way I was describing Von's Monster MD book, it's deceivingly simple, but it's incredibly sophisticated. And artists will know what I mean by this. Like it's hard to write a good pop song like the Beatles, that's skill and that's craft. But like you have, and I like both of these styles, but then you have a band like Rush, right? That's incredibly intricate and detailed. But sometimes it's easier to throw everything in the kitchen sink in, but it's harder to distill something down into a real basic form. And that's always the challenge. And I think that Narwhal can do that with like, I think what it's called a cell shade technique. So there's not a lot of, by today's standards, bells and whistles with the coloring. It's pretty straightforward, but I think it fits the style so well.
It does. It does. He's a terrific artist.
It's great. Yeah, it adds a simple beauty to it. You feel the light, you feel I mean, his colors are always just, oh God, it's like a beautiful animation every time.
Yeah, he has such a great sensibility for that animation type of style.
Yeah, it works well together. Like I've worked with other talents like at Marvel and DC where everybody's fighting to be heard. Like, you have the writer that's writing big stuff, you have the penciler that's just trying to be over exaggerated, and then you have the inker, and then you have the colors, but they're not quite working together as a team. They're kind of fighting each other to be the loudest voice on the book. But with Narwhal and myself, it seems like there's a good harmony. Like they just work together in a very organic way, and
he's just like adding energy and texture to what you're trying to do, which is what a great fit.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll
beautiful book.
Great work,
Beautiful,
Narwhal.
Yeah, Narwhal, you did it again, man. You did it again. He's got a lot of great
So how dangerous is this job, man? Are these guys getting sucked into other times and stuff?
Oh yeah, if you keep scrolling, the second page, I think, you see a mechanic dead. Actually, it's the next. Keep going.
Oh, geez.
Keep going. Yeah, in the background right there. There you go.
This guy.
There he is.
The background is dead.
Dead mechanic. Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't see that guy.
Yeah, he's got little X's on his eyes. His tongue's hanging out. Yeah, no, he didn't
Oh.
make it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a dangerous job. Is the insurance good?
Yeah, the insurance
Take care of you.
is good. I'm sure. Yeah, if his family was around, there would be some kind of payout, you know.
Yeah.
So how does he die in something like that?
He didn't make it to the work site. So the ship was attacked in a time stream by these things called chronomites. And what they are is they're technivores. They eat technology, kind of like a gremlin. You know, like there's a gremlin on the plane. You know, on the wing. There's something on the plane. You know, like that's a gremlin kind of
on the wing.
On the wing, yeah. And so those things attacked the time ship while it was commuting to work, and it basically knocked it out of its timeline, and it crashed. And so in the crash, Miguel, poor Miguel, Caravaggio refers to him as sweet the Miguel.
Yeah.
Oh, my beautiful, sweet Miguel. He makes such a beautiful music with the guitar. And you know, he's right there dead with the guitar. And so the symmetry is that
there it is.
Doug is also a rock musician. So he's the only one on the face of the planet that could enjoy this beautiful creation by Miguel. So he's also Miguel's replacement as a chrono mechanic. So it kind of fits, you know, in an organic way.
Yeah. And they decide he's going to be a chrono mechanic, and he's just like, whoa, is that what happens?
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a set of algorithms that the chrono computer kind of comes up with, and they can kind of figure out who would be a good fit for this mission or this team. And so the fun aspect of Doug is that he has no attributes that you would even think could relate to this job, right? He's they have one thing they say with Chrono Incorporated, they say we never recruit from the 20th century, and then they clarify the latter part of the 20th century. So you know, Doug is from that timeline, and he's just kind of a 20th, like a latter 20th century slacker. You know, and the only thing he knows how to do is party and play a mean guitar. You know what I mean? But he's hardly like work ethic, you know, material. So he looks at work as a 4-letter word. And so he doesn't quite fit into the group that need to just get a job done, you know, so therein lies the fun and the, you know, the tension. Yeah.
Wants to deny that hero's journey, and then he goes on it.
Oh yeah, and then you find out that he has an attribute that no one saw coming, and so that's what ends up, you know, bringing the team together and saving things in the last minute. Oh no! Spoiler alert.
I think that's cool, man. That's great.
Yeah, he looks. This is really cool. I mean, there are these lights going on around him, and he seems like he's floating.
Yeah, Zin has he's a little squid guy, so he can hover, and so he's got kind of this levitation power. So he basically resurrected or stopped Doug from getting pummeled by Oot by, you know, kind of levitating him away from Oot.
Do they have special chips or technology that helps them understand each other? Because these are very different people, different times, different language, different everything.
Yeah, I never really got that detailed into it, but yeah, there was probably some kind of interpretation, you know, device that's built into their equipment.
Yeah, that kind of development stuff, you know, you start working on a story and then you realize, wait a minute, if these characters are from, you know, different places or different universes, there's got to be a way for them to communicate. And then how do they know that they can trust each other, and you know, who are their enemies? And it starts to get very complicated, and you can go as deep as you need to go. But I think when you get something that's so fantastical that you get the suspension of disbelief, there's a lot you can do without having to explain, like, why this pterodactyl is over here, or whatever that guy's doing over there. But they're in sort of a dinosaur time, I guess.
Well, yeah, the core time is the prehistoric era. And so
Okay.
what's happening in this image is that, how he's saying times merge. So time is
Oh yeah.
yeah. So an Eat at Joe's like 40s, 50s cafe appears in the middle of this desert, volcanic, prehistoric terrain. And so that's when they realize that the machine itself is way more out of whack than they even originally imagined.
Oh, that's cool. Crazy. So this company, man, that runs time, is it because they built the machine, or do they get hired by someone big and powerful to do this?
Yeah, we don't answer that question in this story, but I wrote a movie screenplay with a partner. His name's Matt Hillary, and he's a brilliant writer. And in the script, there are 4, and we call them the founders. So these are the guys that actually, they didn't build the big machine. It was kind of built in a mysterious way, but it was just left in disrepair. So these guys were adventurers from different timelines, and they discovered it. It's kind of like, archaeologists. They discovered the machine, and so then they realized that it needed to be maintained. So as they discovered the big machine, they realized what its functionality was, that it wasn't quite functioning properly, and that they just kind of like how humans look after the earth now. We have to, there's things here that we can take, but we also have to replant, and we have to put back, whatever we take. So these guys were they had a lot of foresight and realized that they needed to take care of this machine. So they're the founders that created Chrono Incorporated.
Founding fathers, big statues of them.
Interesting.
That's cool.
They're
Father Time, founding Father Time. No, that's awesome. Good thing none of them were villains. Or you could, if you wanted to, you could make one of them like a villain who had a plan for it or something all along, like later, like a story later. But
oh my god,
yeah, because
dude, you were intuitive. You were intuitive with the stories in the movie. I kid you not. One of them, he's not necessarily bad, the founder, but you know how most like heads of companies, they need to save money, they need to cut corners, things like that.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, so there's this corporate company called Quickie Time, and they're rivals to Chrono Incorporated. So he starts like hiring these guys to do this makeshift work, but one of their things is that they're just Band-Aid solutions. They just go in and they do things cheaply, but it's not long-term fixes. So what we find out in the movie script, the reason time is in such bad shape in the movie script is because that guy was hiring cheap labor to fix.
Was not doing it properly.
Exactly.
These gears are made in China. It's like, no,
they're made out of plastic.
No, that's awesome.
Amazing. That's amazing.
There's so much going on here. I love it. It's awesome, man. And thank you again for letting me do your trailer for you, because I had a blast doing that. That was an awesome thing to get to do.
No. It's me. It's I that should thank you, because you did me a big favor, and also there's not very many people that you connect on a creative level, but Vaughn, you got it right away. I can even tell just talking to you right now that you are in tune with like story, character, things like that. And it was nice not to have somebody that could put, amazing images together and like edit, sound and all these things together, but you also understood it as a narrative. So it really did help. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're most welcome. It was a blast. Thank you. Getting to do that and getting to learn more about it as I did it, and getting into these characters, because they're awesome. They're all unique in the way they team. I just want to see, I can't wait to read this and see how they team up, but also see the conflicts, because it's all there, man. It's great.
Well, there's a ton of conflict, and also it gets absurd, the conflicts, because one of my big idols are the Three Stooges. I love that physical kind of humor. So these guys, this stuff gets very slapstick. So these guys are huge egos, but they don't just deal with it in a quiet way. They actually will start punching on each other, Three Stooges style.
They should have some, I mean, you might already have it, but they should have like some other Chrono Mechanics that are like uptight jerks that think they're better than them, you know? Like that thinks they're suave. They're kind of suaver. They're trying to be a little more, you know, they're still blue collar, but they're like, you know, they're the jerks in the factory.
Yeah, a little more sophisticated, or think they are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of them could be Leonardo.
Oh my gosh, if he got recruited, then Carvalho would probably kill himself.
He'd be like,
my rival. Like an aside, I remember a friend of mine was reading one of my pitches, and he said, "You know who these four guys are, Art?" And I go, "No, who are they?" He goes, "They're you. They're sides of your personality." He said, "You're an artist. Carvalho's an artist. You like to play rock music. Doug's a rock star. You're kind of a businessman. You run an art studio, Hack Shack Studios, and then you're a little bit of a blowhard. You're a pontificator. So just like Zen."
Interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's all your sides hanging out, fighting each other.
Write about what you know, they say, right?
Yeah. And Art, you've done campaigns before and shipped campaigns successfully before, right? So you've done black and white recently. You did black and white. Was it last year or?
Yeah, it was earlier in the year that we launched it. We went live, and thank you to everybody that's backed that and supported that campaign. That thing was hugely successful. And so we're in fulfillment mode right now. So for the last couple weeks, I think 3 weeks, we've been shipping out books maybe every other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Fantastic. And you've done other campaigns even before that. So you know how to put campaigns together. Obviously, you know how to put beautiful books together with very cool stories. And you're fully funded. We're getting the numbers up as high as we can get them for sure. It's always good to sell more books. But you met your flexible goal. And this is a 48-page book, full color.
Yes.
Very cool.
With aspirations to get to 60 pages. So Vaughn can vouch for this, that you're always like, I could get more backstory in there. I could get more action in there if I only had 6 or 12 more pages, you know?
Yes. I'm writing a script right now for my next big project, and I'm like, got to keep it under 100. Got to keep this one under 100. And man, I'm going to go way over 100 pages with this.
The hardest part
is
discipline to pull back, right? To like edit yourself. That's the hardest thing. But you know this as well as I do. The best part of any of these things is when you first start them, because you have your wall of like Post-its, or you have your wall of ideas, right? And you're just putting all these ideas, and everything seems like it's doable, right? And then you realize this would take 1 million pages to do, and then you have to start distilling it down creatively to what it's going to be. And that's the worst part, because those are all your babies, all those ideas you've fallen in love with. But now you have to go, this has to leave, you have to go.
Yeah, man, put them in a fighting pit, and which idea beats the other one? You know what I mean? Because those are the ones, you have to pick the ones that are going to hit your audience the hardest, and then fit that within a good solid structure. That's what I am. I'm like a structure stickler. So like I make sure the coolest ideas are your like turning points, the end of the first act, this happens, your midpoint, this happens. And as I was writing it, I came up with ideas for new characters that I fell in love with. So what do? I jam them in. And and now you've got like another 20 extra, it's like a whole nother issue of just that characters fit into my story. And it's like, okay, so I'm not the biggest stickler for structure. But
do you find yourself overwriting like just background characters? You're like, oh my gosh, this guy's so cool, and then you just go off and start writing this guy's backstory and everything. You're like, oh man, that would make a great story unto itself. And then as you're writing the story proper, you're like, how can I get some of this backstory in there?
Well, that's the beauty of comics, though. Like I've been training myself in going, I can tell a whole backstory in 5 really solid panels on 1 page, Yeah. And I did that. I have a character where she, we see what happened, like who her dad was, and her mom, and then we see her mom training her, and then we see her growing, you know what I mean? We see her grown up and learning to become a sniper, and then we see her get recruited by the villain, and that's it. It's 5 panels, and you just use the right captions. So that's what I'm trying to do because.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he may have frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, he's unfreezing.
Hey,
coming back to us.
Hey.
Vaughn is back.
He was lost in time.
Hey.
Vaughn, you got the time machine.
The Chrono Mechanics. The Chrono Mechanics were here, guys. They were here.
You need to fix it.
They said something about a rusty spoke, and they fixed it, and they headed out.
There was a glitch in time.
They might recruit you. Yeah. Well, you were saying how you told the backstory in 5 panels, and you felt like it worked for that sniper character.
Well, yeah, it's like the beauty of comics is like I could, if I use the right captions and the right images together and hit the audience hard enough, I was able to tell a whole backstory in 1 page and 5 panels. I mean, it is fast, but I think it tells you what you need to know in a cool way. It's still kind of mysterious too, because you only have those 5 panels and a little bit of dialogue, you know, or a little bit of thought balloon. And yeah, I just think that's part of the thing that makes me love comics. If I wanted to do that in a screenplay, I maybe could, but it'd be harder. I think it'd be more difficult.
Well, you have to think about too what you're doing for structure. I'm actually collaborating with and co-writing. You guys are talking about projects that you can't quit. And the first comic book that I ever published was a comic book that I wrote called G.I. Jackrabbits, which started out as a G.I. Joe parody. We published one book. It was during the black and white boom in the 80s. I was a teenager. And then I published another 1,000 comics and never wrote another one. Everything else was just kind of like my high concept and then assigned to other people to execute that we published. And then I kind of getting back into comics again. I wanted to write again. But kind of just did not publish College of the Dead. It's still not my writing. And I started working with, as a development editor, the Professor Geek guy, Michael Kritzer. And then he and I got talking and he's like, you know, you're kind of co-writing this with me because we did so much work together and so much development together. So now we're co-writing. But what happens with characters that you want to have as ongoing characters is you have to think in terms of structure and you have to think in terms of the arc. So we've got a core group of 4 characters that we're writing for G.I. Jackrabbits. We're thinking about the arc and the story of the group, how the group started, and then where the group winds up at the end of the first graphic novel. It's not the end of the group. The group will continue, but it's not going to be, there'll be evolution for the group's story throughout that story. And then there's the story arc for whatever happens during that issue, whatever happens actually that book. But that story arc is the characters in that story. It's not necessarily the story of the group. A lot of things go on simultaneously. There are a lot of things that go on as like the story of the character and then the story of the group and then the history of the group. And you have to take all this. You really have to do a lot of writing that doesn't see it on the page. You know, that's not
right. You have to chart it out. I mean, you have, and it gets crazy, and that's where good editors come in.
And but what I think, Adam, is that you have to figure out, like, you have all that material, but then where's the best place to introduce that in your story? You know, like where it's going to have the most, I call it visceral impact, where it has the most visceral impact in the story, and it feels the most, I guess, relevant to the story. So it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in or it's an aside, that it feels organic in the story. So is it College? What is it's College of the Dead? Is that's your book, right?
Yeah, I'll just flip to the screen. College of the Dead. Now, I did not write this book. I had the idea to do this book. I've worked as a producer in comics most of my comics publishing career. I published biography comics in the early 90s, and then we published parody comics of superheroes. We did spoof comics, and then we did Triumphant Universe, which is a line of color comic books. The most popular one was Chromium Man, and then some other independent titles. And what I would do is I'd come up with a concept, and then I would work with the talent to execute it, but not actually go and write it. And what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to hire, like, the guy who wrote this is Stefan Petruka, who has worked for a number of the comics companies. He's written prose. He did a long run on X-Files with Charlie Adlard back in the day for Topps Comics. And he did a fantastic job of executing a zombie apocalypse universe. And these are college students in a typical zombie apocalypse type of universe. All the rules apply. The zombies don't fly. They're not ninjas or anything like that. No disrespect to zombie ninjas, but the story is about the characters in a zombie apocalypse universe. What I'm working on is this G.I. Jackrabbit series where it's kind of like a Ninja Turtles type of setup where there's super powered mutated animals, but they exist in a Marvel Universe type of world where there are other superpowered beings as well. And you start talking about like, well, all right, well, what's their origin? Where these guys come from? And where they come from is an alien technology that a scientist was manipulating for the good of humanity. But then you start asking like, all right, well then, who's trying to prevent them from doing that, or who wants to steal that technology? And then where is that original scientist? Where they come from? And was he really a good guy, or wasn't he a good guy? So
I don't know. He armed bunnies. I don't know.
He armed
that's what we
bunnies,
need.
but it was for a good reason. We also have we also have a walrus with a bazooka. So Sergeant Tusk.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Well, if there's any animals that would be able to, use a bazooka, it would be a walrus.
It would be exactly.
It
was a natural. I'll find the cover art while we're chatting.
Well, just that College of the Dead, that image of all the kids graduating with the cap and gown.
Yeah,
that's iconic, dude. I'm not kidding.
That's so cool.
That thing is so awesome looking. That poor girl, man. I feel for her.
Yeah, she got hit by a truck or something like that. This poor.
That eye popped out, man.
I one of the things I like drawing the most is zombies. They are you can be as gross as you want. This shows in this piece. I love it.
Yeah, people expect that. This is actually a cover for College of the Dead, the sequel book, Graduation Day, and that book, this one was done in black and white. That one's going to be full color because I couldn't stand it. Everyone else has color books, so we were like, for months I was saying, no, it was designed to be black and white. We can't do it. I'm like, all right, we'll do it in color.
Well, I tell you,
it's kind of like Romero. Oh, sorry.
If I saw that image as a movie poster, with the graduation gown and stuff like that, I would definitely go see that movie. Like,
Yeah, this worked out really, really well, and the piece was suggested to me by a comics editor friend, who's just a great guy who just every now and then will be like, hey, why don't you try doing this? And so we tried it, and it actually worked really, really well. That's why it's sometimes you just have to try things, and then when they're executed, when they're done, they just come out fantastic. Monster MD, I know, has been like something that Von's been working on for at least 10 years, Von?
Let's see. I came up with the idea a long time ago and just let it sit and let myself get haunted by it until I realized I wanted to really do it a few years later. But I did start a version of this book back in 2012 or something. Yeah, it's been like it's going on 7 years, 6-7 years, and I did this 75-pager version, and it was with a totally different artist. Things fell through with him, and he kind of ditched me right as we were trying to finish it, which actually was a blessing, because then I ended up finding Marco, and we made what I kind of consider to be the definitive real deal version of Monster MD. Back then I was just kind of making comics and learning and enjoying it, but this is my first publishing effort, so this is balls to the wall, guns blazing. But I just want to say something, Adam, really quick, Mr. Postman. If you do a third College of the Dead, will you please call it like Student Loan of the Dead or something like
Loan of the Dead? Something in that student realm.
That's something that scares students. Student debt of the dead. No, but I also wanted to say, think of it this way: your first book is black and white, like George Romero's first movie, but Romero moved on to color. So it's time for you to do the same.
Exactly.
So that's cool.
It's color time, and you saw the color page. I showed it to the.
I love it.
Von said it looked good, and Von will not say something is good unless it's good.
That's true.
It's a crime.
I do really enjoy black and white comics. It must be the inker in me that just really loves the boldness and the aesthetic of black and white. So I'm all
yeah,
about
it can be very cool. Like that black and white cover, I have to do a version. I'm going to have like God knows how many cover versions of the second book because I have to do a version of the black and white because the color does look gorgeous, but the black and white looks really fantastic.
I gotta admit, I considered releasing a black and white version of Monster MD because I'm a big fan of that too. You know,
well, it's worth thinking about. Like after the first book ships, you could do a small campaign for it. I'm sure you'd find some takers and people that'd be interested in it, or you could do another campaign that could ship along with it if people wanted to upgrade to it. But people are very interested in what you're doing, very interested in Monster MD in general. But you know, this is the stuff that we're passionate about doing. And Chrono Mechanics, it's so much concept. You've been living with this idea for a long time, and you're very good at describing it and getting like talking about different aspects of it because it can drive people. It's almost like it's mesmerizing, like how much is going on in Chrono Mechanics. It's a whole lot going on.
I pitched this in Hollywood, so you get asked in these meetings every freaking question you could imagine. So you kind of learn to have a lot of this stuff chambered and to kind of intuitively be able to answer these questions like you're just answering, you know, like you just got asked that question for the first time, you know, but you already have the answers somewhere. Yeah.
I think as a comic book person or creator, you have to be ready for that too, because when people are fans, they're going to ask questions for things you never thought of, you know, and I think you got to be on your toes for that. What was one of the more crazy Hollywood questions that you got?
Well, one of them was just that time travel doesn't work. They made a blanketed statement. And when people talk to me this way, I absolutely have a knee jerk. I cannot help it. They said time travel doesn't work. So then I just fired off a bunch of like high profile time travel movies, concepts and things that have worked in the past. And then I said, okay. And then I think there was one cartoon show, because this was for like TV animation. It's called A Rift in Time or something like that. And they go, yeah, but A Rift in Time isn't doing well right now. And I said, yeah, so, you know, like just because that doesn't do well, that doesn't mean all time travel, you know, stories or time, you know, stories that have something to do with time travel.
But that's how executives think. Like whatever's hot, they want it. And then when something's not hot, they're less likely unless you can, you know, wow them. Because sadly that's how they see the world, you know.
Well,
there's a lot of the same movies end up coming out and they all seem alike. You know,
there's a friend of mine that's a producer, and one of the things he told me was, which is funny because I'd really never had this insight, was it was really simple. It was like, look, Adam, one thing you have to understand is if somebody buys your project, they're responsible for what happens to it. So if something goes wrong, and usually it does, and so they lose money, they have to be able to point to it and say, well, this is why I did it. And it has to look, you know, it's one thing. It's great when you have a hit, but when you have something that doesn't work out, someone has to be able to say, well, look, you know, Adam has done these 4 kinds of things before. They all made money. And, you know, that was the thing that everybody thought would work. So there's got to be some context. So if it's super duper creative, you know, they're taking a chance.
Well, also you have to convince that person to do that. So, you know, the better you can answer the questions and if you can sell them and win them over, and they can make, like you said, Adam, a convincing argument to their, you know, their superiors or to their backers, you know, the people that give them money, then that's that's what the whole thing's about. And I totally understand it. And I'm fine with it. But it's like when I was pitching black and white in the day, and we had representation at William Morris. And so I remember having this meeting. It was for an animated black and white cartoon.
So you said we had representation. So that was you and your partner were both represented by William Morris?
It was my wife and I, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she's my creative partner on all these projects. And so yeah, we went in there and we're talking to the lead animation guy, and I think they were animating Zorro at the time. He said, "Guns don't work." And I said, "What do you mean guns don't work?" He said, "Guns don't work animated." And he wasn't talking about from like a moral aspect or any of those things. He was just saying like you can't animate a gun. And I was like, there's a ton of like cartoon shows out there that do this very well. And so then we got into an argument because like, for me, I can't let it go when somebody says that. I have to prove to them like, no, it will work. So I brought up all these examples, and then he just kept arguing with me. And then I said this to him. I said, let's just back up for a minute. You can't make animation guns work. So that was the end of that meeting.
Wait, that was your agent?
Oh wow!
No, this was my agent was there in the room, but we were talking to an animation company about potentially doing a show based on black and white.
Interesting. So what about the Ninja Turtles are running around with swords and nunchucks?
Yeah, I mean, about like hard to animate, like a nunchuck coming at you, a sword coming right at you. Yeah, they do
Batman. Batman animated series and G.I. Joe, and I mean, there's guns everywhere.
All right, you know what, Art? While we're on the subject, and it's interesting content as well. One of the other CG guys that we were talking, actually a couple of the other CG guys that Vaughn and I were talking to were saying, boy, we'd like to have representation in Hollywood. And you've kind of already done it. So let's take a minute and just talk about that. I mean, how long were you and your wife represented by William Morris, the agency in Hollywood?
We signed with a licensing company. They were called Imagination Factory. And the lead, his name is Stan Blum. And Stan, his claim to fame was that he had the early Star Wars license. I mean, pre-Kenner, before George getting, the license back to the first Star Wars movie. So I'm talking about if you guys remember 78 or whenever it was, like the cheesy lightsabers, the posters, the iron-on transfers for the T-shirts, the really cheesy, tacky stuff. That was Stan. But no one saw it coming. They didn't see the success. Fox didn't. Even Lucas didn't. So they were scrambling just to get product out there. So Stan was that guy. And so he was friends with Stallone. So he did all the licensing for like Over the Top, the Rockies movies and things like that. So that was kind of his claim to fame. So they used to have this. They don't have this book anymore. They used to have like an index book you could buy, and it had all the addresses and stuff to different producers and people in Hollywood. They don't do this anymore. So my wife just went down the list, and we put proposals together, and we sent it out to everybody, right? And so we sent it to Film Roman, and it turns out, I forget her first name, but her last name's the same as Stan. She was one of the heads of Film Roman. And so she couldn't do, but she knew her husband was looking for projects like this. So that's how we got involved with Stan. So we got William Morris representation through Imagination Factory. So, so that's how we got that. And so my current representation is Circle of Confusion.
Oh, okay. They're a substantial agency.
Yeah. And they handle a lot of comic book people. And I got in there early on. I don't think I could get in there now, but I think I was just kind of, there early. So really all they had was the Wachowski brothers. And then they had, I think it was, I can't remember the book, but it was Michael Bendis's Torso and was something Goldfish, or I can't remember the other book that he had, his indie books, and they were representing them, and they had a couple other like comic book people that they were representing. So yeah, I got in with them early on, and I met them through a representation or somebody that was interested over at Kids WB, and her name was Megan Casey. She's the wife to Joe Casey. So all the what are their name? Men of Action, the Ben 10 and all that.
Oh yeah, Ben 10, sure.
That was big.
Yeah, and so she was kind of my gateway, bringing Chrono to Kids WB, and then getting the representation with Dave Alpert and Circle.
Now, have you had anything made yet into animation or anything?
I got we were in early development at Kids WB for Chrono Mechanics.
Oh wow!
So I have the animation Bible, and I have I think they call them maquettes. It's about, I wish I had my camera working. It's about a 2-foot maquette. So they do sculptures and then they can do art studies from them.
I've actually seen that. Somebody was tweeting about that. I think it may have been Vaughn. Somebody was showed a picture of your desk or something, and it showed the statue.
Yeah, it was Pixel Trader. Like he
it
was
was
at
Pixel.
the
That's
studio
right.
a couple weeks ago. So he was like, "This place is amazing." So he's just snapping pictures of everything. Yeah,
Very cool. So that got kind of along, but they wound up not
cool.
pulling the trigger at Warner Brothers.
but what happened is, I don't know how these things happen, because you go to these facilities and they just look so permanent. And while we were in development on that, Kids WB just merged with Cartoon Network. And so they just kind of went away. So anything that was in development up to that point just kind of got shelved. So, and then I think Megan went over to Nickelodeon.
Now, when they were representing you, you're currently with Circle Confusion. Do they represent your intellectual property only, or do they represent you also as a producer?
I think just the intellectual property. Yeah.
Okay. So you wouldn't expect to be a producer on your series, but you would expect that they'd say, "Hey, look, here's our offer for your intellectual property."
Well, I don't know if you know how these Hollywood things work, but usually you end up getting, for the lack of a better word, screwed in your first sale. So if you can negotiate for producer credits, or even, get this, creator credits in your own animated, TV show or live action or movie, then you're really lucky, because you usually have to have some kind of clout to even get those kind of mentions. There's a lot of people that create this stuff. They get no mention at all in these movies or these different places. Like, you don't even know they're like, from cartoons or from comic books.
So my plan was, if anything ever gets picked up by me, I want my producer credit.
Well, good luck.
I want that. Yeah,
you know what?
I bet they won't like that.
But Vaughn is backing down, I think, a little bit, because I think when you, a couple of months ago, Vaughn, you said you needed to be able to write it. I think you were going to be the writer and director.
I think I don't have enough clout,
Oh,
you would take a producer credit.
Yeah.
And
I
maybe
think it's more likely with this current climate, though, Vaughn, to get a first pass at the movie script, because what they want is so if you have a movie script already in existence, they'll buy that and they may give you a pass at the second, like the rewrite. They probably won't use it, but you'll get that money,
Right. I definitely have done that. I've done contracts with my scripts where I get first rewrites. And this SJW director took my script and he did his own rewrite with his own writer, changed it to what he wanted. And then when the producers saw this and found out and looked at my contract and saw that I got first rewrites, they got in trouble. But nowhere near as much trouble as I expected. I thought they'd get fired, but they didn't. They just kind of kept making the movie and didn't really make my script, sadly. So that was a bad experience. But
please tell me that wasn't Monster MD, because that thing...
it was not.
Hold on to that thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely holding on. And it was a cool little kind of coming of age story called Crazy Horace, about a kid who misses his dad who died in the war, and his mom is moving on and marrying a new guy, and the guy has a son from his previous marriage. And his son is like the ultimate evil bully that like you don't want to mess with, but he has to stand up to him, and they play this game of cowboys and Indians that goes terribly wrong. So it's pretty funny. It was a cool little coming of age story that everyone fell in love with. It won a few awards. I was really pumped when someone picked it up to make it, and it had a budget and everything. And then it just kind of, messes happen. SJW director came in on it and wanted to make it about racism. Which was not what I was writing about brotherhood, and he was like, racism will be the ticket. So good times.
So you've heard of the evil stepmother, but now this story is the evil step brother.
Yeah. And he calls, his name's Horace, and he calls him Horace, and he calls him, he curses him, tells him he's cursed him and he's gonna make him crazy. And it's cool. By the end, they kind of, learn to respect each other a little bit, and real simple.
Well, remember this when you're kids, and I think guys are still wired this way. Like you have this adversarial relationship with somebody, right? And then you guys just like kick the crap out of each other on the schoolyard, right? And then somehow like you become best friends after that.
Yeah, there's this weird bonding, man. One of my best friends growing up was Matt, and we ended up being in a band together. But when I first met him, he was the creepy, ugly bully. He turned around and was peeking over the bus seat at me and making fun of my dimple in my chin and saying shit was coming out of it and that I had a butt chin. And I was like, screw you, you're a jerk. But then like all of a sudden, like after our fight, it was like, let's hang out.
That's crazy. That's fun.
Yeah. Matt's a good one. Matt's been my friend ever since.
Yeah. Almost all the friends that I still have, we at some point had a knockdown physical drag out fight, black eye, bruises, bloody nose. Yeah.
All right. If we ever meet, I'll understand the headlock or the drop kick you're going to send my way.
There will be a battle. There will be fighting. Well, let's make sure we talk about the tiers, because we do like to talk about a lot of different stuff, and I'm definitely guilty of leading people in crazy directions. But I like your featured tier, the signed graphic novel, sketchbook, and cards.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, cool. Each one of the book tiers comes with a corresponding trading card. So the main book comes with a team trading card, and the sketchbook comes with an elucidator trading card. And the elucidator, like I've kind of mentioned, he's the computer program, the know-all for Chrono Inc. And his name is Eugene. So he's not only a computer, but he likes to think of himself as human. So he's for the sake of he's kind of a flesh and blood hologram. So he can interact with people. So the fun thing about the sketchbook is not only does it open, it's like horizontal instead of vertical, so it opens like a centerfold. But it's also narrated by Eugene. So Eugene will go, this is what Art was thinking when he was talking with Chrono Incorporated when they came up with the design for the time pack or whatever it is. So instead of, it's always like, this is what I was doing, I. It's actually going to be, from Eugene's point of view. Mm-hmm. He's going to elucidate you, because that's what they call him, the elucidator.
So this featured perk has the graphic novel, which is for now 48 pages at a minimum, full color.
Yes.
The sketchbook, which is horizontal. The team trading card, the Eugene trading card, and signatures on the sketchbook as well as the graphic novel.
Yes.
Very cool.
So on the book itself will be my co-writer Pamela and myself, and then the sketchbook will just have me on there as a signature.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, this is a little more basic. The signed team trading. Signed graphic novel and team trading card.
Yeah, they only give you so much space to write things in these.
They do.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of messing with. Posters. Oh, very cool looking posters. Unfortunately, it might be a little small on the screen, but bring the posters. Wow,
there's bigger representation down the line if you scroll. And the fun thing is that the posters, the two posters are oversized, so they're bigger than 11 by 17. And I thought it would be fun to actually keep going. I think it's right after these. Yeah, it should be right there.
Here we are.
Yeah,
World Tour.
It's the World Tour, and it's called the D Tour because in Doug's timeline they call him the D. So his rock star name is the D. And so this is 1978 World Tour poster, the double go Gonzo. So that image is I took it from a Ted Nugent like pose.
Oh, cool.
That's a perfect Ted Nugent pose. Oh man,
Ted
Cat
Nugent.
Scratch Fever. Yeah. That's awesome.
So it's got all the tour dates underneath it and everything. And so then we have the time.
So Doug's big. He's not just a struggling musician.
No. Yeah, he is a superstar. Yeah, he's huge. So the reason why is because I also wanted to make his excess huge too. So like the sex, drugs, rock and roll. So that huge, big 70s lifestyle,
Yeah. He's spoiled, He's forgotten what it is to get his hands dirty.
Pre-AIDS, when you could You know, you could do some crazy things.
Straight. Good times. Good
So that's
times.
the pre-AIDS poster. And all right, so you get both of those color posters. They're oversized, bigger than 11 by 17. They are 18 by 13, which
That's awesome.
That is a good size. And you have 4 additional prints. And this is just posters.
Yeah, that's just it's kind of like an add-on. So if you buy the books,
Cool.
you can get, you know, you can add on the posters, but the ultimate tier down at the bottom includes everything. So you can get all the books and the
posters.
The posters, yeah.
And the sketchbook. Well, we'll get down to that because that is the complete package is where people should be at if they can do it. If not, you have to figure out what you can budget to get. I like the $50 tiers. I think those are very cool tiers because you're getting more than just the basic.
Mm-hmm.
The variant covers collection. So there's 4 different covers.
Yes, and so we have superstar talents. We have Carlo Barberi, who he and I worked at DC Comics. His last claim to fame, and mine as well, was Super Sons for DC. And then we have Aaron Lopresti, who I've also worked with at DC. We did Detective Comics, Batman Detective Comics together.
He's been around he's been drawing comics a long time. I remember from the very early 90s, I saw his I saw a submission that he had sent us. I'm remembering the photocopies. It was really beautiful work. We just never had anything that was appropriate. And then he got some great work.
Yeah, he's always been good. Like he started off like really strong.
He's always very, very good.
Yeah. And so, we have 2 other covers by when I was doing animation and pitching stuff, I met 2 really, really great guys and became 3 actually. Doug Tenaple was one of them. But it was Sean Galloway, Sean Cheeks Galloway, and his big breakthrough was he did the designs for those 2 Hellboy cartoons. Mike Mignola Hellboy cartoons. Cool. And then he did the Amazing Spider-Man design work on that as well. And so then, he did that one. And then the one underneath it is Tom Bancroft, and he's a big-time Disney animator. So his big claim to fame is Mushu from the Mulan movie. He did the key animation and design work for that character.
Wow.
And his twin brother directed that, Tony Bancroft, and won an Academy Award for that movie. Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
So, and Sean Cheeks Galloway is damn good. Wow.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So I got some like major A-list heavy hitters to come in and help out. And the cool part with all of them is I didn't even ask them. They just volunteered artwork. So
that's great.
Came out of the idea that, what am I going to do with this stuff? I got to do something, Mm-hmm. So I thought since there were 4 different characters, I'd make, each one would get their own cover,
Well worth it.
Well, good call.
Yeah, once you start making variant covers, it's hard to stop. I'm working. Yeah, I know what that's like. Let's just put it that way.
I'm scared to make a variant cover.
Don't start, Vaughn. Don't start. You're not going to be able to stop. You'd be like, oh, this would be a great cover. That'd be a great cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a lot of discipline.
These are beautiful. These are beautiful, though, and that's the thing. They're always beautiful. What are you going to do? So that's the variant covers collection at $95, and it includes the related trading cards, which is cool. Everybody loves trading cards too. It's great to be doing trading cards.
Yeah.
All right, the twofer, which includes
2
copies.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 copies of the signed graphic novel and 2 copies of the sketchbook.
Yes.
Yeah. See.
And the trading cards. And
you get 4 trading cards, 2 of each.
Very cool. The ultimate CM tier. And CM,
yeah, baby.
What does CM stand for?
Chrono Mechanics.
Chrono Mechanics.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like you have to be really clever with how you name your tiers because they don't give you a whole lot of space.
Yeah, no, they do. They crunch you.
Very
compact. Could give you some more words. It wouldn't hurt. But we'll talk to them about that and see if they do. That is, all right, the ultimate tier is the graphic novel, the sketchbook, everything signed, the Doug cover, the GOT variant cover, or Groot. Oot.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's 002, so it's oot.
Yeah, that's my eyes. Believe it or not, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Caravaggio, Zinn. Wow. So this is a lot of covers.
Yeah, so this comes with a mini print that you can't get in any of the other tiers, and it also comes with 4 trading cards that the other tiers don't have. So there's 10 total cards in like a collector Chrono Mechanics set. So only here can you get all 10 of them. So it really is quite a good deal. Not only do you get all the books, but you also get things that you can't get in any of the other tiers.
That's why they call it the ultimate tier.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us that are completionists. You know what I mean? Like if there's 4 cards that you can't get anywhere else. I'm always I got to get that tier. You know?
Yeah, you want to. Yeah, well, especially if you really love something, it's like, well, when else are you going to get it? Particularly our stuff. Particularly crowdfunded projects. It's like you're not going to have a lot of chances usually to get everything, especially like the little special extra stuff. So it's good to get it.
I think that's why these are cool events too, because it's not just like, oh, here's the book. It's like, here's all these other cool things. And also you can make them very thematic. Like, the sketchbook is very Chrono Mechanics. It's not just like a generic sketchbook. It's in theme. It's in, the whole, it's more coherent and more complete, I think, that way. Themed, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, well, it's special. Simply put, it's special and it's appropriate for the property. Now, the bulk tier is if somebody wants to get nuts and buy 10 copies, or if somebody wants to resell them or something like that.
Yeah, so it's like buy 9 and get the 10th one free kind of thing.
Okay.
And you save in shipping as well.
Very cool. And you have original art.
Yeah, I've sold so much artwork for this issue. I had to start taking the tiers down. So people are responding to the artwork. So that makes me feel good as an artist. So that means that you're kind of hitting a niche, like you're connecting with people. Your artwork is when they're willing to, pay that kind of money and put that into their collection.
Yeah, well, your work is certainly known, and people are lucky to be able to own it. So this is a signed sketchbook, signed graphic novel, original art, page 11 tier.
Yes.
So these are really like one at a time. There's only one page 11. If you like page 11, this is your chance to get it. Black and white, just looking beautiful. These are 11/17 on Bristol board.
Yeah, they're on like old image paper, I believe. It's either image paper or old Marvel board. So
cool.
It'll say that at the top of the board.
Borrowed from image, borrowed from Marvel.
Yeah.
How cool. And this one already sold out, the signed cover. Or the cover with a signed graphic novel. Very cool. $1,000? Absolutely.
Are there any babes? We got any babes in this?
If you scroll down a little bit, there's some. Actually, keep scrolling. No, go up a little bit. Well, there's babes there, and then there's some babes. Keep scrolling.
Up or down?
Yeah, keep going the way you were. Yeah, up towards the top. I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go back to the top.
We missed babes.
Should be the next. There it is, right there.
Oh yeah, the waitress.
Yeah, so Doug's hitting on the roller waitress there. Yeah, so he's kind of like, I'll have a hamburger, or I'll have a cheeseburger, a malt, and a side of you, baby.
Your number. That's cool. Are there any Chrono Mechanic ladies? And if so, do they get all buffed out, or are they just
We actually have, not in this story, but there's a character, his name's the Foreman, and so he kind of runs a different sector. So he's basically the Chrono Mechanics Team 9.2 of Sector 7's middle management. So he basically looks over this team. And so there's a woman that works at Chrono Incorporated, and she's basically a paper pusher like he is. But we find out later that she's actually Rosie the Riveter. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they fall in love, but then you'll find out, we're just going to lay down little hints here and there that it's actually, Rosie.
Really
great.
This is a mind-blowing project.
That's so cool. Yeah, man, this has it all.
Yeah, this
Awesome.
concept can go anywhere. And I do remember being asked this a lot when we were pitching. Is like, how does the time travel work? And I said, whatever's funny, that's how time travel works. And they were all like scratching their head. And I'm like, I want to contradict time travel all the time, because I think where time travel gets into problems is when if they can set the rigid way time travel works, like the first Back to the Future or the first Terminators, it works. But what they end up doing is they end up forgetting the parameters, and so they end up kind of screwing their own concepts, the integrity of the concept. So one of the things I wanted to do with Chrono is that we would never get into that situation because it's a humorous book. So just like Rick and Morty, which I'm so angry when I saw that come out, I was like, oh, see, that was my pitch. Like that thing doesn't follow any logic, man. They just do whatever they want, and then they kind of back explain, how it worked or why it worked. And so I always thought of situational comedy as this, like, it's just situational. Like the comedy comes out of the situation. So they were like, no, it has to be rigidly written. We need to know how time travel works in this universe and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, well, this is how it works. Whatever's the funniest idea, that's how it works.
There's always like nutty stuff going on in Phineas and Ferb. That was a fun show.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't like consistent. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy shit going on in there. And it was just but it was fun and it was crazy. And
of course not. Like who's got that kind of foresight to write these things, 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line.
If we could figure out how time travel works, I don't think we'd be doing all this stuff. No, I mean, I love comics.
If we found out, this is my thing, a way to time travel, nothing would have any meaning anymore. Nothing would have consequence. Nothing would have meaning, life, death, nothing. It would be the most crazy place you would ever imagine. We fantasize about like a utopian society or time travel, but in reality, these would be the worst things to ever happen. Like case in point, if you wanted to have like a utopian society, the only way that could exist is to have complete agreement, because as soon as you had disagreement, you do not have utopia anymore. So freedom would be the first thing that would have to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. Do you cover that a little bit in Chrono Mechanics story, or?
Oh, we don't get that deep into it. These are just like, things that I've thought about. Like, people are like, oh, and there's these people like, oh, I want anarchy. And it's like, you want anarchy within a structured society. You don't want anarchy because, trust me, it's the biggest and the strongest. And you little dweeb guy that says you get your punk rock hairdo and stuff like that, you'd be the first to go.
You'd be going down, little man. It's so true. It's so true. I just saw a TV show from France, Murder Mystery, and it was about, we had just invented something that keeps you alive for like maybe forever. We don't know, but it keeps you rejuvenated and young forever. You get in this vat, it keeps you fresh. And we've just discovered this. So the oldest person is like, she's like 190 something like that. And so every time she has a birthday, they report it on the news and everyone goes, yay. But like we've discovered immortality, and immediately there's problems. Like, it's not the utopian society. They're having to tell people to stop giving birth. They're having to start putting regulations on everybody. You can't just have kids anymore. There's suicide cults start popping up where people think, we're kind of breaking the rules too much, and start convincing young kids to start offing themselves. So it was really interesting. It was utopia, but it wasn't at all,
Yeah. Those are good. Like, sci-fi is good for like cautionary tales, like Frankenstein, science gone amok. A lot of people look at Frankenstein as a horror story. I look at it as like, it's pure science fiction. It's one of the first cautionary tales ever written. And I love all that stuff. Like you said, like, if you could live forever, life would have no meaning. One of my favorite things, it doesn't really get talked about, but the hard hook of Highlander, the first Highlander, not all the other abominations, was basically that guy, just life lost meaning for him. You know what I mean? Like he had lived so long that he saw so much and done so much and had love and heartbreak and all these different lifetimes of experiences that life lost its charm. You know what I mean? Like, but he couldn't die. You know what I mean? Like he was kind of damned. He was in hell because he couldn't really die.
Yeah.
He had no arc. If you're not going to die, you have no arc. Nothing really changes.
And life has no meaning.
Yeah.
And especially if everybody else around you is not in that same situation. Yeah, I guess you're a ghost at that point. Don't be a ghost. Die when you're supposed to die, but don't die now, everyone. Live good lives.
Why his reward wasn't immortality. His reward was that he would die. He had an expiration date now.
Interesting. Something for us to all think about. Everybody, you should back Chrono Mechanics. I had no idea it had this much to it. Whatever money you give Art, it's not enough, because think about it. Like, look, he's packed a universe of universes into this thing. It's unlimited. It's
and
interesting.
We're all going to be watching the animated series someday. I swear, this is awesome.
And the thing is, it might sound complex, but that's just all the writer stuff. That's all the backstory. That's all, how the mechanics of it work. You don't even need to know those things. It really is just a fun action adventure. It's really not that deep. Those aspects exist within this universe. This really is a slapstick, kind of high adventure sci-fi fun story.
Yeah, very fun.
And it's very adult oriented. It's a little bit edgy. I think Vaughn had like you're hitting that right demographics where it looks kind of like Monster MD looks like an animated style, but the way it's branded, it's obviously appealing to more adults. And that's one of the things I got to get through with Chrono, because I've been asked this question: is it a good all ages story? And I said, yeah, but it depends on your kid, because it's pretty edgy. And when we say Doug is from the 70s, that's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, he lives that lifestyle. We don't. It's illustrated in the book. Like there's nudity, there's adult situations and stuff like that. But I believe that most of that stuff will go over kids' heads. Like I don't think it's very, it's not that obvious. But I think an adult will just, they'll just go, yeah, I understand this. This is funny. This is good stuff.
They get it. Well, it's a heck of a project. It's very, very cool looking. And I really appreciate the opportunity to go through this with you, Art. And thanks also for, giving us that background. And it was all really, really interesting stuff. The Extreme Studio Days, talking about the representation and the pitching in Hollywood. It's all very, very cool and interesting things. And I think there's going to be a lot of other Comicsgate stuff that goes into that direction when we're ready and we've got more books and we've got more momentum. And when you have something great, people seem to eventually they start to kind of find you, and they find out other people, and amazing, interesting things happen. But Chrono Mechanics is very cool. Everybody should definitely back it. Art is also on Twitter. Art, your Twitter is?
Everything's my name. So Facebook,
okay,
in Instagram, YouTube. Yeah, it's.
Excellent.
I don't have any clever Comics Pro, Art Pro secrets or anything like that, or Black Veil or Blacklist Universe or anything like that. So it's all just branded my name.
Guys, you can still get Von's book, Monster MD, not Monster Von Klaus, Monster MD. It's been very successful. It is one of the great new Comicsgate books. Everybody is very excited about Monster MD. Very, very cool. Evil needs a checkup. We've got the doctor to do it, Monster MD, and it's still in demand, so you can get it. My book is College of the Dead. It's in demand. It's actually been shipping. We shipped it. We started shipping in October. We're actually still shipping now for people that order to get the books to people before Christmas, which is, I'm just glad I had the book done by the time we started offering it. It's the only way I was able to do it. And even with that, we had to jump over some hurdles and solve some production problems. There's always problems when you're making these books, but it's a labor of love, that's for sure. All right, guys, so have a great night. Guys in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back again soon. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. We will have more cool shows like this soon. Thanks again, guys. Have a great night. We really appreciate you.
And Mr. Poe.
That's Mr. Postman song.